Hi, welcome to Pure Yoga. Today we're going to be working with the different energy forces. That is 5 different forces which we call the Vayus. The main one is Prana, which is our main life force, our breath. And then we have an upward force, a downward force, an outward force and an inward force. These are our 5 Vayus of yoga. Vayu means wind. So let's come into a child's pose and everything will come a little more clear as we move through the poses. Knees nice and wide, big toes together, bring our seat back towards our feet and bring our hands forward towards the front of the mat. Settling the chest to the in thighs, bringing the forehead down to relax, reaching forward with the fingertips, back with the sit bones. Take a nice long deep breath in and a long sigh out through the mouth. Take a scan from the fingers to the toes. Have a check-in with how your body feels. Being aware of tight spots, injuries, looking after them through practice. When you've taken a scan of the body, bring the focus to the breath. You can use that Ujjayi breath, slight restriction at the back of the throat, with a raspy sound that only you can hear in your own ears. On your next breath in, reach a little further forward with the fingertips, switching into that upward force. And on an out breath, try and push the sit bones a little closer back towards the heels, switching into the downward force. And on your next in-breath, expanding through the rib cage outwardly to the outward force. And on an out-breath, drawing the belly back towards the spine for that inward force. In-breath, reach a little further forward. Out-breath, push the hips a little further back. In-breath, expand through the rib cage. And out-breath, abdominal contract. Walking the hands to the right side of the mat, bringing your left hand on top of the right, settling your chest to that inner right thigh. And as you fold over, you take that inward force, Sumana. As you breathe in and reach the fingertips a little further over, you take the upward force, Udana. And as you breathe out, you push those hips back towards the heels with that downward force, Apana. And as you breathe in again, you expand that rib cage with the outward force of Vyana. Walking the hands back through centre and over to your left side, right hand on top of the left. And when you come to this side again, your out breath, we fold over, Sumana. Your in breath, we reach up and over with the hands, Udana. Your out breath, your sit bones push back towards the heels, Apana. And that expansion of the rib cage on the breath in is the outward force, Vyana. And our breath circling around the body is that 5th force of Prana, our life force. Coming back to the centre space and take a moment in neutral, grounding through both the shins, the hands, the forearms, the forehead. Then making your way up onto your hands and knees, bringing the heel of the hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, tops of the feet flat. Push into the hands with that force into the mat. Push that chest space in between the shoulder blades. Abdominal contract. And then reach the right hand forward. Reach the left toes to the back of the mat. Squeeze the left bum cheek to raise that left leg up to hip height. On an outward breath, bring the inward force, Sumana, and squeeze elbow to knee. On an in-breath, send the outward force to Vyana, straightening through hand and leg. Bring a bend into the knee and the elbow in, inward force. And out breath, in-breath, send that long force. Bring the right hand back down, left knee back down. Opposite side, left hand reaches forward, right toes reach back. Squeeze the right bum cheek to lift the right leg up. On an out breath, bring elbow to knee, Sumana. And on an in-breath, reach back out, Vyana. One more, elbow to knee, breathe out. And breathe in to lengthen through the limbs. Bring that left hand down, right knee down, take a rock at the hips, and then step yourself back to plank. And from plank, raise the hips to find your downward facing dog. Have a nod, have a shake of the head. And then when you're ready to bring those heels to a still position, encouraging them back, widen the fingers, push into the hands, push into the feet, that downward force of Prana. And then lifting the tailbone up towards the ceiling with the upward force of Udana. Taking a Vinyasa, coming forward to plank on the inhale, lowering your variation, drop knees or straight bodies or hover, exhale. Lift up with the chest, inhale. And then find your way back, either rolling over the toes or bringing the chest back towards the thighs. Pushing into the hands and feet, lifting with the hips and a squeeze of those heels back. Gazing in between the hands, step or jump to the front of the mat. Allow the body to fold over the thighs and let the head go. On an in-breath, bend the knees, raise the arms, finding chair. On an out-breath, sink into those hips a little deeper. Tuck your tailbone down and lift your lower belly towards the rib cage. Reach higher with the hands, that upward force, Udana. And sink the hips a little lower to that downward force, Apana. On an in-breath, straighten the legs, bring your right hand back, left hand forward, twist to the right. And then on an out-breath, bring your right hand down and around and sink back to chair. On an in-breath, left hand up and over, right hand forward, twist to the left. Out-breath, bring that left hand back around and find chair. Take a breath in here. Take a breath out and fold over the thighs. Let the head go. In-breath comes to a half lift, fingertips or hands to shins. Out-breath, plant the hands, step back to plank. Take a breath in, plank. Take a breath out. Next breath in, lift the hips, squeeze the heels back. Find downward facing dog. So we're going to start with a flow. We're going to take it slowly with all the poses, and then we'll do breath to movement on the second round. Your weight stays in your left foot as your right leg lifts. We bend the right knee and we stack at the hips. Your choice can be to stay here or take on the next pose in the minute that I'll give you a cue for. Try and neutralise the shoulders towards the front of the mat, but open the hip up as much as you can to the right. Coming onto the knife edge of the left foot and drop your right foot behind you. Bend the knees and bring your right elbow towards your right hip. Drop the bum towards the mat or a hover. And then straighten through your left leg. Send your right hand back to find Wild Thing. Reaching long through that right side body, weight in the left hand. And as you reach back, that energy force, that upward force of Udana. And then bring a bend back into that left knee and the right elbow towards your right hip and sink the hips towards the mat or a hover. And then plant the right hand onto the mat. Come onto the toes of the back foot as you raise that right leg back up. On an out breath, bring the elbow to knee and hold that squeeze for a breath. Then raise that right leg back up towards the ceiling. Keep hips nice and neutral. And then bring your right foot through in between the hands. And as you step that right foot forward, find your stability. And then keeping the hips low, raise the hands up to find our crescent lunge. Left leg is straight, right knee is bent. And we're pushing into that downward force of Apana with the feet. And the upward force through the fingertips of Udana. Then sending left hand forward, right hand back and twist to the right. And as you open the arms out, we connect with that force of Vyana. And then bring your right hand to the back of the left thigh and the left hand reaches up. And as we contract the back body, connecting into that force of Sumana, that inward force through the back body. Find that outward force again with our twisted warrior, right hand back, left hand forward. Then scooping your left arm down and around and forward to meet your left hand. Raise the both hands up to the ceiling, finding crescent lunge. Remember, pushing firmer into the feet gives you more stability. Then leaning forward with the torso, back with the hands, finding aeroplane lunge. And as you reach back, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Create some openness through the chest, length through the crown of the head. Then reach back up with the hands, find your crescent lunge once again. And then bringing the hands down to either side of the right foot. Step your right foot back to meet your left foot. Hold plank for a breath. Take a long breath in and a long breath out. Lift up the hips then and squeeze the heels back. Find down dog. Then let's take ourselves through a vinyasa, coming forward to plank on the inhale and lowering your variation on an exhale. Lift up with the chest on an inhale and make your transition back to down dog, either chest to thighs or rolling over the toes, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Relax the head, relax through the neck. Let's take a slow flow with the left side. On your breath in, your left leg lifts and bend the knee and stack the hips. Remember, you can stay here if wild thing isn't for you. Then coming onto the knife edge of the right foot, drop your left foot to the back, bend into the knees and elbow to that left hip. Then straighten up through that right leg, sending that left arm back, reaching through that left side body, weight in that right hand. And then bring yourself back, hips to hover, knees to bend, elbow to left hip. Then plant the left hand down, roll onto the back toes and reach the left leg up. Bring that knee towards the chest and squeeze and hold. Raise then that left leg back up. And then bringing your left foot through in between the hands. Find support through the feet first, stabilize. Then raise the arms up to find crescent lunge. Left knee bent, right leg straight, heel pushing back through that right foot. Then finding twisting warrior, sending right hand forward, left hand back, reaching out with the energy force of Vinyasa, pushing down into the downward force through the feet of Prana, growing up through the crown of the head, Udana, and that twist creates a little Sumana. Bring your left hand down the back of the right thigh and the right hand to lift, feeling that space along that right side body. Then find yourself back to your twisted warrior, both hands to shoulder height. Then scooping your left arm down and around and forward to meet your right, reach both hands up. Find crescent, relax the shoulders, lengthen the arms. Then leaning forward with the torso, back with the hands, and as you find your aeroplane lunge, squeeze those shoulder blades together, lengthen through the torso. Long line from the crown of the head back to that right heel. Then reaching back up again to find crescent lunge for one more time. And then bringing both hands down, either side of the left foot. Step your left foot back to plank. Hold plank. Take a breath in. Take a breath out. Lift up with the hips. Squeeze the heels back. Down dog. Take yourself through a vinyasa, coming forward to plank, inhale, and lowering on your exhale. Lift up with the chest on the inhale, and find your way back to down dog on the exhale. Have a nod, have a shake of the head. Take a gaze in between the hands, take a bend into the knees, step or jump, front of the mat, and fold on your out breath when you get there. On an in-breath, raise the arms, sink the hips, find chair. Take a breath out and sink a little lower, feather light touch through the toes. On an in-breath, straighten the legs, right hand back, left hand forward. On an out-breath, scoot the right arm down and around and sink. In-breath, straighten through the legs, left hand back, right hand forward. Out-breath, scoot the left arm down and find chair. Take a breath in here. Take a breath out and fold over those thighs. Find a breath into a half lift. And then plant the hands and step back to plank. Hold plank for a breath. Long breath in. Long breath out. Then lift the hips, squeeze the heels back, down dog. Okay, let's take that flow, breath to movement. Take a long breath in and a long breath out. Your next breath in, your right leg lifts, bend knees, stack hips. Out breath, plant the right foot down and bring elbow to hip. In breath, straighten through the left leg, right arm reaches back. Out breath, elbow to hip, bend knees. In breath, right hand plants, left leg lifts, toes of the back foot. Out breath, knee to chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. Breath in, that leg lifts. Breath out, your right foot steps through. Breath in, raise to crescent lunge. Breath out, twisted warrior to the right. Breath in, right hand down the back of the right leg, left hand lifts. Breath out, back to twisted warrior. Breath in, right hand lifts, both hands lift to the ceiling. Breath out, forward to aeroplane lunge. Breath in, both hands lift. Breath out, both hands plant. Step back. Take a breath in here. Take a breath out. Breath in, lift the hips. Breath out, squeeze the heels back. Breath into plank. Breath out to lower. Breath in, lift chest. Breath out, your way back to down dog. All meeting back in that space. Take a gaze in between the hands, take a bend in the knees, step or jump front of the mat, and on your out breath, fold over the thighs, let the head go. On an in-breath, bend the knees, raise the arms. On an out-breath, sink a little lower into your chair. Breath in, straighten the legs, right hand back, left hand forward, twist to right. Breath out, find chair. Breath in, left hand back, right hand forward, straighten legs. Breath out, back to chair. Take a breath in. Take a breath out and fold. Breath into half lift. Breath out, plant hands, step back to plank. Take a breath in here. Take a breath out. Breath in, lift hips. Breath out, squeeze heels back. Breath in, left leg lifts. Bend knees, stack hips. Breath out, left foot plants, elbow to hip. Bend knees. Breath in, straighten through that right leg, left hand reaches back. Breath out, left elbow to left hip. Breath in, left hand plants, left leg lifts, toes of the back foot. Breath out, knee to chest, shoulders over heel of the hands. Breath in, left leg lifts. Breath out, left foot steps through. Raise up on in-breath, crescent lunge. Breath out, twisted warrior to the left. Breath in, right hand lifts, left hand down, back of right leg. Breath out, back to twisted warrior. Breath in, scoot the left arm down and around, raise both hands up, crescent. Breath out to aeroplane lunge. Breath in, raise both hands back up. Breath out, plant both hands down. Step back. Take a breath in. Take a breath out. Breath in, lift hips. Breath out, squeeze heels back.
Come forward to plank, inhale. And lower, exhale. Lift the chest on the inhale. Back to down dog, your variation, or meeting back in that space. Take a gaze in between the hands, take a bend in the knees, step or jump to the front of the mat and fold over the thighs on the out breath. The in-breath drops the hips, raise the arms. Breath out, lowers the hips a bit deeper. Breath in, straighten the legs, right hand back, left hand forward, twist to the right. Breath out, find chair. Breath in, left hand back, right hand forward, twist to the left. Breath out, find chair. Take a breath in. Take a breath out and fold. Breath in, half lift. Breath out, plant hands, step back. Take a breath in plank. Take a breath out. Breath in, lift hips. Breath out, squeeze heels back. Coming down onto the knees. Finding child pose for a breath. We're going to do that exact same flow again with breath to movement. As you've familiarised yourself a little more with the breaths, the poses, the upward force, downward force, outward force, inward force. So I'm going to try and cue breath and the forces that we're taking in the poses as we flow through that next round. If you need to take on any water, feel free to do so. So remember the upward lift Udana, the downward push Apana, the outward peripheral of the body Vyana, and the inward of the body Sumana. And our breath continuously moving is our Prana. When you're ready, meet me back in down dog. Stepping maybe through tabletop to plank, lift hips without fussing with those hands and feet. Have a nod and a shake of the head. We're going to start the practice with a Vinyasa just to keep that body moving and warm. Take a breath into plank. Take a breath out to lower. Breath in, lift the chest. Breath out, your variation back. You may take that extra breath in, extra breath out with the chest back to thighs. Get back to down dog. Take a long breath in and a long sigh out through the mouth. Breath in, your right leg lifts, bend the knees, stack the hips. Breath out, right foot drops, right elbow to right hip. Breath in, straighten up, Udana. Breath out, crunch back in, Sumana. Bring the right hand down and on an in-breath, the right leg lifts, toes of the back foot. Out breath, knee to chest, Sumana inward. In breath, raise up. Out breath, step the foot through. Plant the feet, Apana. In breath, raise the hands up, Udana. Breath out, find twisted warrior, Vyana. In breath, left hand lifts, right hand down the back of the right leg. Bring yourself back to twisted warrior. And on an in-breath, bring your right hand up, bow to meet. Out breath, Sumana, inward force, aeroplane lunge. In breath, upward force, Udana. Out breath, plant hands and ground, Apana. Step back to plank. Hold plank for a breath. Breath in, breath out. Lift at the hips, squeeze the heels back, in breath. Out breath, settle. Take a gaze in between the hands. Take a bend into the knees. Step or jump to the front of the mat and allow the body to fold over the thighs. On an in-breath, drop the hips, raise the arms. Upward force, Udana. Take a breath out, downward force, Apana. In-breath, straighten the legs, right hand back, left hand forward, Vyana. Out-breath, find chair, downward force, Apana. In-breath, straighten up, left hand back, Vyana, open. And then bring the left hand back around and sink the hips. Take a breath in here. Take a breath out and fold and hang. In-breath to a half lift. Out breath, plant the hands, step back. Take a breath in, take a breath out. Lift hips, in breath. Squeeze heels, out breath. Come forward to a plank, in breath. And lower, out breath. Lift up with the chest, in breath. And back to down dog. On your out breath or chest back to thighs, meeting in this space. Ground through the hands and feet, Apana. Lift through the tailbone, Udana. Breathe out through the rib cage, Vyana. And abdominal contract the belly, Sumana. Take a long breath in. Long breath out. Next breath in, left leg lifts, bend knees, stack hips. Breath out, left foot plants, left elbow to left hip, Sumana. In breath, reach up, Udana. Out breath, in, Sumana. In breath, lift the left leg up, Udana. Out breath, knee to the chest, Sumana. In breath, raise the leg up, Udana. Out breath, step the foot through, Sumana. In breath, raise the hands up, Udana. Out breath, open the arms out, Vyana. In breath, right hand lifts, left hand down the back of the right thigh, Udana. Out breath, back to twisted warrior, Vyana. In breath, raise both hands up, Udana. Out breath, lean forward with the chest, Sumana. In breath, raise both hands back up, Udana. Out breath, plant the hands, Apana. Step back, take a breath in, take a breath out. Lift hips, squeeze heels back. Holding down dog for a breath. Have a nod, have a shake of the head. Take a gaze in between the hands, take a bend in the knees, step or jump, front of the mat, and allow the body to fold over the thighs. On your next breath in, raise the arms, sink the hips, Udana. On a breath out, sink down, Apana. Breath in, straighten up, left hand forward, right hand back, Vyana. Back to chair, Sumana and Apana. In breath, straighten up, left hand back, right hand forward. Scoot back down and around to chair. Take a breath in, take a breath out, fold over the thighs. Breath into a half lift. Breath out, plant hands, step back. Take a breath in plank. Take a breath out. Lift up the hips, inhale, and squeeze the heels back, exhale. Let's finish with a vinyasa. Forward to plank, inhale, and lower on your exhale. Lift up with the chest, inhale, and back to down dog, your variation, meeting in that space. When you find your down dog, let's switch into those 5 Vayus. Hands and feet pushing firmly into the mat, that downward force, Apana. The tailbone lifting towards the ceiling with that upward force of Udana. The breathing into the rib cage, letting that air come out to the side peripheral body. And that is Vyana. And as we abdominal contract and push the air back out, we find Sumana. And our life force of Prana is continually moving and circulating throughout the body at all times. Coming down onto the knees, lifting the shoulders over the hips, bringing the knees to hip width apart, and then tucking the toes under to lift the heels slightly towards your reach when we go into camel. Bring the hands behind the back, push into the toes, push into the knees, grow tall through the crown of the head, the 2 forces of upward and downward push. Then squeeze the bum, push the hips forward, start to raise through the rib cage, the chest, gazing up towards the ceiling, finding that back bend. You can stay here if you wish, or if you want to find the hands on the top of the heels, taking hold of that space, reaching up with the chest. If you find this is too deep, bring the hands back to those lower backs. We're holding this space for a few breaths, creating that space across the front body, that outward force of Vinyasa. We're pushing into the toes and the knees, the downward force of Prana. And as we lift the chest to the ceiling, the upward force of Udana. And as we contract the back body, we find that inward force of Sumana. Keep breathing, don't hold the breath, using that Prana, that fifth Vayu. One more breath here. And then bringing the hands to the lower back if they're not already. And then start to lift up with the torso. Untuck the toes. Bring the knees together. Bring the seat towards the feet, the chest to the thighs. And let that head hang, the shoulders hang. Taking it into our posing pose. From a back bend to a forward fold. Feel everything heavy on the mat as you let go of any muscle holding. Feeling everything heavy to the floor. Downward force of Prana. And our inward force as we're crunched over the thighs of Sumana. Our outward force of Vinyasa as we breathe in wide through the rib cage. The only one we're not finding at the moment is that upward force, as we're just letting everything be heavy over those thighs. Taking one more breath here. And then making your way onto your hands and knees, bringing the heel of the hands under the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips, tops of the feet flat. Keep your weight in your left hand, reach your right hand up and out to the side. Outward force of Vinyasa. Then thread the right hand in between left hand, left knee, bringing yourself into a crunch and a twist. Maybe you find a left hand lifted up to the ceiling. Maybe you find your left hand onto the lower back. Wherever you are, just feel comfortable with the neck. We are going to add on to this if you wish, so wherever the hand is, keep it there. Push into your right forearm, ground into your right knee. Send your left toes towards the back of the mat, opening up with an outward force through that leg. And then pushing more into that right shin, right foot as you lift that left leg up and away from the mat. Only do this if you feel comfortable with the neck. As you lift that left leg, we work with the upward force of Udana, the upward force through the hand, the downward force through the right forearm and right shin. One more breath here. Then bringing that left hand back to the mat, your left knee back to the mat. Push into the left hand, reach your right hand up and out to the side. And then bring that right hand back to meet the left hand. Take a couple of rounds of cat-cow. Upward force with the tailbone and the head, and the downward force with the belly. And then opposite direction, head goes to a downward force in the tailbone and the centre of the spine goes to the upward force. Come back to centre and hold centre space. Weight stays in your right hand as your left hand lifts up and out to the side. Then thread your left hand in between right hand, right knee, bringing your left ear to the mat. Settle yourself with your neck first. You can stay here with the hand down. You can bring the right hand onto the lower back or reach the right hand up. We're going to find that fly of the right leg on this side also, unless you're not happy to go there. So push into your left forearm, push into the push of that shin, and then send your right toes back towards the back of the mat. And then if you want to go with the fly, reaching up with that right leg, opening up through the chest, holding that balance. Maybe it's a little more challenging on this side for you. One more breath here. And then bring that right hand back down, your right knee back down. Push into the right hand, reach your left hand up and out to the side. Then bring that left hand back down to meet your right hand. Let's step ourselves back to a plank. Take a long breath in and a long breath out. Then lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Find downward facing dog. Have a nod, have a shake of the head. Raise the right leg up towards the ceiling. Have a bend at the knee and a stack up of the hips. Then realign the hips. Bring your right knee to the heel of the right hand and the right foot underneath the body. Untuck the back toes and send that left leg back. Take a breath in, elongate the spine, and as you breathe out, fold over that right shin. Maybe bringing forearms and hands to stack and the forehead on top, or reaching far forward with the hands and let that chest settle over that right foot. Think about those spaces of tightness. Think about the places you're sending energy to that you don't need to. Maybe it's through the shoulders. Relax them out, relax the jaw, the face. Think about maybe the outside of that right hip. Maybe that's the point that feels tight. Take your out breath and send it to that place. Using your breath to release anything that's tight. So we're finding here a lengthening through the arms, reaching forward. So we're going into Udana and we're pushing down into the top foot, finding Apana. The crunching over the leg finds our inward force of Sumana. And as we breathe into the back and side body, the outward force of Vyana. Continually circulating the breath with Prana. One more breath here. Then starting to bring yourself back up onto the hands. Tucking your back toes under and lifting your back knee. Stepping your right foot back to meet the left. Find plank for a breath. Breath in, breath out. Lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Find down dog. Let's take left side pigeon. Breath in, left leg lifts, bend the knee, stack the hips. Then realign the hips and bring that left knee to the heel of the left hand and the left foot under. Untuck the back toes, move that leg back. Take a good breath in. And then as you fold, connecting with Sumana and Apana, the heavy weight of the body, the inward force. Take a breath in, connect with that long line, the upward force of Udana, maybe straightening the arms out. And then settle over that thigh for a couple of breaths. Remember your focal points of tight spots. You can bring awareness to them spaces. Let go of the tension you're making and just let that range of movement be found. Taking energy away from places that don't need it. Relax shoulders, face, jaw, and just find some comfort in the pose. We have one more breath here. Then coming back up onto the hands, tucking your back toes under, lifting the back knee, stepping the left foot back to meet the right. Take a breath in, take a breath out. Then lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back, find down dog. Take a moment to neutralize the shoulders and the hips. Then meeting me back in a seat, feet to the front of the mat, thumb to the center. And when you get to a seat, bring the arms up to shoulder height and slowly lower your torso all the way down towards the floor with as much control as you can take. When the head and shoulders meet the mat, bring the arms down by the sides of the body, turn the palms up, separate the feet to the width of the mat and let the feet drop out to the sides. Make sure your lower back's comfortable. And if at this point you usually pause the video and go to do whatever your day is doing, I would like to just say a quote that I saw recently, which is if you don't do your Shavasana, It's like doing 500 words on your computer without pressing save. So think of your Shavasana as consolidating everything you've just done, pressing save and holding on to those thoughts, feelings, emotions and sensations. Make sure the whole body's comfortable. Lower back, shoulders, back of the neck, back of the head. Close the eyes, relax the jaw, let the tongue drop away from the roof of the mouth and the lips gently part. Take a good long deep breath in and a long sigh out through the mouth. Let the body be heavy, supported by the floor. Downward force of a Prana. All the muscles relaxed. So taking the tool of energy forces away with you off the mat can be simply when you're laying there in bed, early hours of the morning. You can't sleep. Sometimes you bring your focus to your breath and count the breath. Instead of doing that, take your attention to a different focus. The inward force of Sumana as you breathe out and contract the belly. The outward force of Vyana as you expand the belly, the rib cage, sending everything to the peripheral, the outward force, Vyana. The inward force thinking tall, long, extended, Udana. And the outward force, the grounding, support, heaviness, Apana. Breath in, extend, light and lifted, Udana. Breath out, let mattress support you, Apana. Breath in, widen through the rib cage, chest, belly, Vyana. And all that abdominal compression, contraction, Sumana. Breathe in lightness and lift. Breathe out weight, heaviness and support from the earth. Breathing out expansion. Breathing in compression. You can choose to stay here a little longer, following those in-breaths and out-breaths. If you're coming out with me, bring the knees into a bend. Bring the knees in towards the chest and flatten the lower back off. Take a hold of the knees. Squeeze them in towards the body. That inward force of Sumana, and the forehead to the knees to take full flexion. And then release the feet to the mat. Reach the hands up and over the head. Take it into that upward force, outward force, Udana Vyana. And then rolling onto your side body, connecting with that prana, that breath, the in-breath, the out-breath. Then making your way up into a seat, finding a grounding through the sit bones, height through the spine. So thinking of that grounding, that downward force of Apana. And the lifting up through the crown of the head and the spine, the upward force, Udana. Bow the head, chin to chest, Sumana. Take a breath in, bring the hands up and out, Vyana. Then send them up to the ceiling, Udana. Then bring the hands to the chest, Sumana. Feel heavy through the body, Apana. Take a breath in. Take a breath out. Breathe in wisdom and peace. Breathe out love and joy. From my heart to yours. Namaste.